Hello, Clipper families. My name is Tom McManaman. I am an assistant principal at Falmouth High School. I'm joined here today by my colleague, Rosemary Moran, who is the principal of the Mullenhall Elementary School. Today, we are presenting just a little bit of information on restorative practices and the shift Falmouth Public Schools is making as we use a more restorative lens when talking about student discipline. So in this brief presentation, we hope to tell you a little bit about what restorative practices are, why we are making this shift to restorative practices, and what they will look like in the Falmouth Public Schools.
What are restorative practices? Restorative practices are a system of formal and informal processes that build and sustain a culture of kindness, respect, responsibility, and justice. This is achieved through emphasizing the importance of trusting relationships as a central to building community and repairing relationships when harm has occurred.
So when talking about why we are making this shift, it's first important to discuss the goals of the shift. And what we want to do is to teach behavioral skills and understandings in the same way we teach academic ones to students. And of course, we want to keep students in school and learning rather than removing them from their classrooms for suspension or expulsion.
So what is the change? Restorative practices take incidents that might otherwise result in punishment and create opportunities for students to become aware and notice the impact of their behavior, to understand the obligation to take responsibility for their actions, and take steps towards making things right.
So what will this shift actually look like? I imagine most of us have a pretty traditional version of what school discipline looks like. I know I did before doing more research on restorative practices. And what we see with that is a more punitive approach to student behavior, where we used to say that misbehavior was simply breaking the rules at school. When we put that restorative lens on, what we see is that misbehavior is truly a violation of the people around you and the relationships you're building. Where we used to say that the offender is accountable only to school authorities, now we're saying that the offender is accountable to all those that are harmed and to the learning community as a whole. Where we used to say that accountability is equated with punishment and usually exclusion from class, now we're redefining accountability as taking responsibility and repairing harm. Where we used to say that those harmed are just peripheral to the process, now we're really looking at those who are harmed playing a key role in our response to wrongdoing. And where we used to say where offenders were defined by their deficits, by those misbehaviors, now what we really want to say is that offenders have the capacity to take responsibility for their actions and change their behavior because we value all members of our learning community.
How will restorative practices look? It's a no longer one-size-fits-all approach to students' discipline. Instead, cases are looked at uniquely as conversations happen with both those who have harmed and those who are harmed. Proactive measures such as class meetings, informal circles to build classroom community, and impromptu conversations with affective statements. Formal circles to resolve problems, and victim-offender dialogue.
So again, that's just a brief overview of what restorative practices will look like. We hope this starts conversations between families, students, and schools. And if you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to your school to continue that conversation. Thank you so much.